last time I referenced the concept of closing the loop in a spreadsheet. And I want to talk about kind of what I mean by that, and then what the limitations of not being able to do that are, and then how I kind of would like to sort of see that work in reality. So up here, I have a non-business example. Since we had a lot of business examples, this is a chore reward model for my house, where I have a certain amount of chores that I want to get done, people that I can assign them to in this column. I have sort of an expected percentage of those chores will actually get done. And then I have a reward rate where for a certain, you get a certain amount of cookies for each chore that you do. And then I have sort of the total cookie payout here and the cookies that everyone gets. Okay, let's go back to closing the loop. So one of the challenging things here in any spreadsheet is that for any given value, you have to decide whether something is a specific number, right? So dad reward rate, that's 0.15. I typed that in, I declared that. Or if something is like a relationship with a formula, it's relative, right? So the chore number combines dad chores, Mary chores, and Sam chores, adds it up, and that's the chore number. You have to decide, right? So in the other example I showed you, it actually couldn't do the math because you had what's called a circular reference, because you needed the value of A to determine B, which needed the value of C to determine B, and it was this circle that could never get resolved. Kind of cool. Spreadsheets can actually do that math. There's a setting in even Google Sheets right here called iterative calculation, which allows you to do that stuff. So it's not impossible. The problem is when you actually use it, right? In this case, when I want to change this number from 150, which is calculated, I want to try something else. Let's say Mary did, 120. Well, it'll recalculate, right? But now this isn't a formula anymore. So if I change something else, I have Sam do 20 chores. Mary's chores doesn't get updated because you have to pick, right? And that means that when you are trying to do a what if scenario, you have to decide up front what's going to be a direct value, what are you going to test and change, and what's going to get calculated. You can't change your mind and say, well, you know what, I actually want to test this thing and see that react. You didn't set it up that way. That's not how it works. Not being able to switch back and forth between saying this part of my model is something I want to tweak and this is something that I want to sort of see react, that's a limitation to most what if scenarios that a person tries to spin up quickly in a spreadsheet. Alternatively, let's look at that same model like this. In this system, right, all of those same things are represented, and all of them can be treated either as a direct value that you enter and set and see other things react to, or the opposite. It can be something that reacts to changes in other parts of the system. That's a setting that you just flip on or off. So in this case, right, I'll leave it open. And I'll say, well, I want to set it to, 500. Okay? Oops, I set a maximum on this. Let's say 250. Okay? Here you go. Accept that change. Now I lock this so it can't change. So when I change other things, right, it's going to refuse to change that 250. It's this express value that I've declared and locked. Other things can change to make the math work when I make a change down here, but this number will stay the same. If I'm okay with that number changing, or I want that number to change in reaction, I can turn that lock off, and the change will also affect this. And I can do this with anything, right? I can say, no, stay the way you were, or I'm okay with you changing. I can say, okay. Being able to switch back and forth between saying, I want to declare this value and I want to see this value get generated by something else I declare, and being able to switch that on any part of the model is awesome, because what it means is you don't have to know exactly what you're looking for when you build a model. You can just build it. And then when you have a question, you can get it answered, no matter where it is in the model or whether you thought it was important enough to build a certain way when you started.